Today, we're taking a trip back to the early 1990s when multimedia was the hottest buzzword in technology and checking out something that was a staple in every school library. We're going to be looking back on Microsoft Encarta. Now, when I was a kid, there was a common sight in my relatives' living rooms, and indeed my parents had a row of little used encyclopedias that took up the entirety of the top of their bookshelf. And you'd often see adverts on late-night TV and shopping channels offering entire collections of multi-volume Britannica encyclopedias, usually for a price that went into the several hundreds. But when the early 90s came around and we started to hear that new buzzword of multimedia, there was actually a standard known as MPC, which was a computer that had the recommended configuration to qualify as a multimedia PC and could then display the logo on its case. And the initial standard was set in 1991 and originally consisted of a PC sporting at least a 16MHz 386 SX CPU, 2MB of RAM, a 30MB hard disk, a 256-color VGA video card, a single-speed CD-ROM drive, and a sound card, usually a Sound Blaster, and Windows 3.0 with multimedia extensions installed. But there was also a short-lived wave of multimedia living room devices that made it onto the market, including the probably better known Philips CDI, which was a computer inside a case that looked like a piece of home theatre equipment, and would usually be operated from the sofa using a remote control. And its main rival, the Commodore CD-TV, which was similar but was based around an Amiga 500 computer. And one of the most advertised uses for these multimedia devices was being able to access interactive encyclopedias. Now, they were initially marketed as being able to help kids with their homework and being able to offer much more than a paper version of an encyclopedia, with things like added video, audio, and graphics. And the first multimedia encyclopedia I remember using was the Hutchinson's Encyclopedia on the CD-TV. Now, this was released by publisher Attica Cybernetics in 1991, and this promised to be the first of a regular series of annual discs, although to my knowledge, I think this was the only one they ever released. And it contained all the information you'd find in the paper edition of the encyclopedia, but also had a large collection of images and sound recordings. Now, admittedly, I don't remember using this much for homework as a kid, but I did find it really interesting, just going through the articles and listening to the audio clips and looking at the galleries and even checking out the early Google Maps style atlas that was included here. But by far, the most popular multimedia CD encyclopedia would launch in 1993 at an initial cost of $395, and that was Microsoft's Encarta. Now, these discs weren't cheap, but it was often bundled with a new multimedia PC, and the cost of buying Encarta standalone was shortly lowered to $99. And I still remember seeing Encarta for the first time, walking into the library at school, which previously just had a few Acorn Archimedes computers amongst the aisles of books, and checking out a Windows 3.1 PC on a table with a single-speed CD-ROM running Microsoft Encarta, and this thing looked so high-end, I just had to have a play. Okay, so I thought I'd quickly demo Microsoft Encarta 1994, which is the version I first remember using at school. And as you can see, Encarta was part of the Microsoft Home range, which was their range of multimedia applications.
My poor little children, one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin.
And I remember this introduction music with that clip of Martin Luther King in there as well. And this great little introduction wizard here as well. This is very nostalgic. And from here, you can drop straight into the contents, check out the category browser. We've got a gallery wizard that shows you all of the pictures and sounds and maps and animations and videos that are on here. This PC hasn't actually got an MPEG decoding card, so it will be interesting to see what the quality of videos are like. I imagine they're going to be rendered in software on here, probably in a postage stamp-sized window. A search wizard there as well, and we can check out the features of Encarta that we won't want to miss. So let's check out the highlights.
We who have fought against you.
So we see about major news stories
we say
in this year.
Today.
And there are audio clips of words and phrases in 60 different languages. So maybe it could help you learn languages. Don't remember doing that with Encarta though. New topics, notable women, world politics, the arts. Yeah, the Atlas section, I remember using that quite heavily at school. And there was detailed maps of 25 major world cities. Some sports clips in here as well. Yeah, some visual art stuff in there. Yeah, music clips from famous jazz musicians like Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald, Miles Davis. Very cool. A few videos in here as well. So yeah, we can come out of this now. And then we can either just enter Encarta, which will take me to the last thing I was looking at, which was the definition of a hacker. So we can see that here. A hacker in computer science, originally a computer file, a person totally engrossed in computer programming and computer technology, which was the original definition of a hacker. You know, today we think of guys in hoodies and Guy Fawkes masks, hacking the Gibson. Back in the day, though, hacker was just someone that was really interested in computers. So we can go to the back to the menu here. Can we check out the categories? Will be quite interesting. So contents, I think, will show me everything in here, which obviously, we've got quite a bit of choice there. Let's try going back to the title screen again. And from here, we can select the category browser, which I always found a bit more intuitive. So it's broken down into different categories, as you'd find in an encyclopedia. If we want to check out science and technology, we can break that down into different categories here. So let's try computer science and electronics. So we can look at, an accelerator card here. That'll give me the definition of that. So, I'm demoing a encyclopedia. Most of it is text-based, and admittedly, not the sexiest thing to show in a video. Let's go into the gallery section. Maybe we can get a few more audio clips or video clips in here as well. I would be quite interested to see how video runs on this machine. So we can see here, this is an audio sample. So we can play that.
Bow.
Ow.
Cough.
Okay.
Thorough. Thought. Rough. Through.
So some of these were quite interesting if, you were learning other languages, telling you how to pronounce certain sounds. We've got a picture there of a 14th century costume. Let's try to find a video clip. So we'll be interested to see how this machine handles video, if I can find any in here. Oh, there's a video clip. Okay. What have we got there? The Alpine Glacier. Let's have a look at that. Okay, it's a bit more like an animation than an actual movie. But actually quite interesting, see how a glacier forms. This brings back some memories, actually. I've got a feeling that I may have used this when I was doing my geography work at school back in the day. This looks quite familiar, actually. And I think we can actually, search by different topics here as well. Let's try, can we just find video? Here we go, yes, just video clips. Let's try that. Let's try basketball. Here we go, an actual video clip. Okay, so it's profiling my machine to see if it can play video by the looks of it. Oh, there we go.
You want to play some basketball?
Not bad, actually.
Fast-paced and action-packed. Basketball is one of the most popular sports.
And as I expected, it is in a very small window, but considering this card hasn't got hardware and a hardware MPEG decoder on board, actually, this is pretty decent. I remember, something like the CD-TV, CD-XL format, or other machines like the Mega CD they had on the Sega Mega Drive. Video quality didn't look this good on those platforms, so yeah, it's not bad for software only. So as you can see, there's quite a lot in here compared to a standard text-based encyclopedia. So that's what we've got here, a clip of the Berlin Wall. Obviously, this was released only a couple of years after the Berlin Wall came down.
In 1949, Germany was divided by the victors of World War II into occupied zones. The western regions united to form a...
Yeah, so this one's a bit more like a presentation. There's a video clip in there as well. There we go, some video footage by the looks of it we can scan through.
Symbol of the Cold War battle line known as the Iron Curtain. It was not until the 1980s that Cold War tensions eased through the glasnost policies of Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev.
Yeah, so actually, even though I haven't used this for about 30 years, it is still quite interesting to go through and watch all these kind of mini documentaries in here as well. So there's quite a lot of video content on here for a 600 megabyte CD-ROM. Yeah, and from here, you could look at different areas of the world, and you can just drag it around there and zoom in. So let's try, okay, we'll zoom in there. Northern Europe. Let's have a look at the United Kingdom. Sights and sounds, what we got here. Okay, this is pretty cool. So it kind of gives you the media from each country that you go on. So we can look at London Tower Bridge. See a picture of it there as well. The political divisions in England back in 1993. So yeah, not a lot of information here, only a couple of pages, but yeah, it is quite interesting to look at. And I do remember this section of it here. This was really interesting, a world timeline that kind of showed you Earth from its origins up until the modern day of the early 90s, with highlights in here as well. Yeah, this brings back a lot of nostalgia. I always thought this was really in depth back in the day as well. And actually there is still a lot of information in here. You know, we're only at AD 1300 there. And it goes up to the year 2000 where, yeah, we're going to be in space apparently by the looks of that. The birth of the computer. See, it is actually incredible. You know, today we think of a CD-ROM as not holding much information, but actually the amount they could pack in here was pretty impressive. So let's come out of this. Some other highlights you might remember from this initial release of Encarta as well. There's a dictionary and a thesaurus on there. There's a word processor built in as well. That was, yeah, just Microsoft Write. But the thing that I think most people, I remember spending time on, was the Mind Maze game. That actually was included in several versions of Encarta and improved over the years. This was kind of like a quiz game with some RPG and adventure elements in there as well. So you could pick the subject that you want to get quizzed on. So let's do again, yeah, science and technology is fine. I'll put my name in here.
If you solve the riddle, I'll strum you a tune.
Okay, so we get a riddle that we need to solve, and watch me be terrible at this.
If you solve the riddle,
Okay.
I'll strum...
To move to the next room in the castle, click the word or phrase that best identifies, okay? The techniques developed to protect single computers and network link computer systems from accidental or intentional harm. I imagine that would be computer security.
3 cheers for the victor!
Yes, look at that. And then we can check out the article that gives me a bit more information on that as well. So, you know, it could help you learn. It wasn't just a game. Obviously, the reason they included this with Encarta. But it was, you know, the closest thing to a game that we could play in the library at school. Then we move to the next room.
Taoist philosopher Lao Tzu says, "To know that you do not know is the best. To know more, answer the question."
Okay, so we look at the other things in here as well. Okay, let's get the door. We'll get to the question here. Okay, a branch of science that applies physical principles to the study of the Earth. Which I imagine would be, out of these, what do you think, geophysics?
Wisely chosen. Confucius says, "The cautious seldom err."
I am a woman of my own destiny. Find the right answer to decide yours.
Okay. A machine used in weaving fabrics from yarn. A loom.
Bravo, bravo, you're a smashing success. On you go.
So, yeah, I could probably sit here and play this for the next hour or so, but, I mean, this initial release of Encarta, or at least the earliest version I remember, and this is bringing back, you know, a load of nostalgia for me, it actually does contain quite a lot of information. I mean, mainly, you know, you're going to be looking at articles and images, but having stuff like Mind Maze in there as well, I think, did help to make this a bit more engaging. But I do remember the following year, after the school summer holidays, coming back, and all of a sudden, we had a few RM Nimbus machines running Windows 95 with a newer version of Encarta installed on them as well. So we'll have a look at that next. And just before we jump into that, I wanted to take a moment to give a big thank you to this video's sponsor, my friends at NordVPN. Now, you might have heard about VPNs before and how they can protect your privacy and make it seem like you're connecting from other parts of the world, because there are nightmare stories of some free VPN services selling your data to ad companies and even ISPs. Which is why NordVPN comes highly recommended and offers double encryption technology, meaning you go via 2 VPN servers, the second of which is totally unaware of your original IP address. And NordVPN reroutes your internet connection through their super fast servers, meaning you're fully protected at all times, even when you're traveling on public Wi-Fi in coffee shops or at the airport. And NordVPN works with most operating systems, including your smartphone, and they've got unlimited bandwidth with no data logging. And it's so fast, you can leave it on in the background and forget about it. You don't even realize that you've got it on. And they improve your online experience with their CyberSec suite, which blocks ads and protects you from malware and other online threats. So protect your online activity today with the only VPN to get all the green checks on PC Mag. And NordVPN have been kind enough to support my channel, so if you enjoy my content, please support them back and take advantage of this amazing offer. Their Black Friday weekend deal is on right now, so if you go to nordvpn.com/danwood, you will get a 2-year plan with an additional month for free with a huge discount applied. So that's nordvpn.com/danwood, and I'll put that link in this video's description. And a big thank you to NordVPN for their support of my channel. Okay, then back to Encarta, and the next year, Microsoft Encarta 1995 had some massive upgrades over the previous version. And if we launch it here from the Windows Start menu,
Justice for all. Justice for all. One small step for man.
You don't understand. Willie was a salesman.
and actually for me, this intro graphic and audio, I think is even more nostalgic than Encarta 94. I used this version a lot more back in the day, and we can check out a few of the new features here as well.
Encarta 95 is loaded with comprehensive and current information. Pictures, sounds, movies, and more bring this information to life.
So we've got over 26,000 articles in here as well, organized alphabetically. Sights and sounds. More than 8,000 photos, over 8 hours of digital audio. More than 100 movies in here as well. Mind Maze has been updated too. We'll check that out in just a moment. But remember, they're still shipping this on a single CD-ROM at this stage. So it was really incredible the amount they packed in here. So let's hop into Encarta 95. And obviously the big change is that Encarta 95 was really optimized for the new release of Windows 95 that came out in that year as well. So we dropped straight in here on the first part of letter A here, which is the letter A. We can check out some of the features. We've got the atlases in there again. Yeah, the new UI is a lot easier to navigate than the previous version. So we'll check out. Let's go to Spain, and we can see the sights and sounds of Spain here. 21 different medias that we can play, so a little bit more than the previous version by the looks of it. We can hear a flamingo. I didn't know what a flamingo sounded like, but now I do. We can check out the climate charts there as well, some Roman armor. So yeah, a bit more media than in the previous version. Let's check out the UK again, see how many more we've got in here. Sights and sounds. Yeah, still 11 on here as well. They actually look quite similar to the previous year. Coal miners in Great Britain. Yeah, not many of those around these days. What else can we check out? The media gallery here. And there's quite a lot in here. I wonder if there is more video than the previous year. Yeah, 28 video clips in here as well. What can we check out? Let's have a look at Hurricane. Yeah, it definitely looks bigger, the media window that we get. Still not full screen, but definitely a lot more viewable than the small window that we got on Encarta 94. I am running this on a more modern machine though, with I imagine, more powerful hardware that could handle more high resolution video. And let's check out the new version of Mind Maze. Yeah, and this is a version I remember playing most. It kind of reminded me of the kids' TV show Nightmare, which I'm sure anyone that grew up in Britain in the 80s or early 90s will remember Nightmare. So yeah, wouldn't be a tourist. Okay. And again, we'll pick technology. Straight into here. Yeah, the graphics are much improved over the previous version. Oh, I was trying to make that full screen, but I think we came out. There we go. So click on that door. You're a new face. Whatever. Let's do a puzzle. Okay. Devices used to measure or indicate the passage of time. I think that might be a clocks and watches. Yeah. Okay, 60 points added. Though interestingly, it's been a long time since I played this, but In the previous version, we were getting digitized speech from the characters, which doesn't appear to be in this version so far. Instead, we get text here, so maybe it was due to lack of space. They put more information in here, so maybe there wasn't room for the digitized speech, maybe. Okay, what we're doing here. Process of lowering the temperature and maintaining it in, okay, I'll say that's refrigeration. Okay, 51 points. Click on him. Yeah, as you can see here, it's just text. Sounds like the riddle. In maritime history, a type of large seagoing warship propelled by oars and more frequently by a sail, which I imagine would be a galley. There we go, 56 points added to my score. So again, it was, it was a game that we could play on the library computers at school. So even though, looking back, not the most gripping video game, and I definitely had better games at home, I did used to spend quite a lot of time on this, and it was, definitely more acceptable at school than booting up Lemmings on the Acorn Archimedes. And I thought we'd just quickly check out a version of Encarta from a few years later, the Deluxe version from 2001, because, by this time, I was fully connected to the web, didn't really have much of a need for a multimedia encyclopedia on CD or DVD, so it is quite interesting to check this out because I didn't see it back in the day. But actually by this time, in the early 2000s, Microsoft did offer a version of Encarta that you could check out on the web. If you were a subscriber, if you paid for it, you could access the entire Encarta database via the web. And I think there was a free version that was quite substantially cut down, but also they were still releasing it on physical format too. By this time, there was actually 3 different SKUs of it: a standard, a premium version, and this deluxe suite that I've got here that included everything on a DVD. And as you can see from the menu here, you can actually jump into all the different Encarta products that they offered from this menu. And the homepage here actually looks, quite dynamic. I'm running this on Windows XP, and as you can see, it's definitely got that kind of look and feel with a the date on there as well. You could do updates if, the website was still up and running. It's linked into MSN, of course, which, Microsoft were heavily pushing at the time. We've got the index down the side here that we can jump into. Let's try some of the different things that we've got in here. We've got the Interactive World Atlas that we can jump into, which by this stage was actually its own product. It had come on quite a lot since the earlier versions of Encarta. So do the dynamic map, and as you can see, graphically, it's way more advanced than the older versions. And if we click on a country and go into Australia, check out some of the animals, which, from what I know about Australian animals, most of them want to kill you, I think. I think that looks quite friendly. We can click on that, get more information about them, and hear sound effects of what they sound like too. So, by this stage, this was delivered on either 5 CD-ROMs or a DVD, which I think must have been a dual-layer DVD, as this image is nearly 7 gigabytes. So, massively expanded with much more information than the older versions of Encarta that you got on a single CD-ROM. What else have we got in here as well? Africana, which I think this is actually something they offered for a few years, a version of Encarta dedicated to African culture and history. So as you can see, there's loads in here. So that's really interesting. What else have we got? We've got the World English Dictionary, which again, was a full product by then, and all accessible from here. We won't spend too long on all of these because I know this video is getting quite long now. We check out some virtual tours as well. So if you ever wanted to see what Mount Everest is like, we've actually got a 360 rotational view here. So lots of information about it too. So as you can see, really, just so much information in here. You could spend hours going through all this stuff. And the presentations were massively improved over the previous versions as well, with some interactive sections like this one on the internet here, where we can go in and show you in real time kind of what everything does and how it works. And it kind of shows you a bit more of the internet history there as well. So yeah, it's very cool. And of course, you want to see Mind Maze, which was still being included. Although, by the looks of it, not all that different to the version that was in Encarta 95, actually. So actually looks pretty much identical. So yeah, it looks like, they actually went all out. Really improving this from 1994 to 1995, and then it doesn't look all that much different now, really. And they've taken out the technology section. That's the only thing I know. Let's try science. Yeah, graphically looks identical to the previous version. Although we do have new characters. Okay. So, can we get a question? Yeah, again, there isn't any digitized audio on here, which I missed from the earlier version, actually. That was quite nice to have in there. And, the fact this was on the DVD, I'm sure they could have, fit that in easy enough. So, before we wrap this video up, I thought we'd have a quick look at the final ever version of Encarta. And to do that, we have to jump onto my modern Windows 11 PC, because actually this version runs fine on modern day Windows, as it came out in 2009, and this was, as far as I'm aware, the final physical release of Encarta. By this stage, they'd actually renamed it Microsoft Student 2009 DVD. But as you can see, the Encarta branding, is still on here. But it looks very different. And actually, I've got to say, it's kind of got that, Windows Vista, Windows 7 kind of styling to it. But I think this looks a bit sterile. It's a little bit boring to look at. And it kind of feels a bit more like a student portal. They're really heavily going for that university college kind of market with this. It doesn't really feel all that engaging or fun from these. This looks a bit like it actually reminds me of a web page that you get, when you go to a park domain. It looks a bit like that, doesn't it, actually? So you got stuff in here like papers and reports, so you can do a book report, and we've got stuff in here like, that will open in Office. So little templates are included in here as well to make doing your reports easier. So yeah, not all that exciting. And as you can see, they're all in folders as well. So there is a lot of information in here, but really the presentation of it, I don't know, just doesn't look all that exciting, does it? So let's have a look at a computer. So there we can drill deep, and all the information's still in there. But yeah, it did kind of feel that, by this stage, they were kind of giving up on it and moving away from it. I can't imagine the sales were all that great by 2009. And if you're wondering what happened after this, well, Microsoft did actually shut down the main MSN Encarta site on Halloween in 2009, although they kept the dictionary online until 2011. And after that, well, the story of Encarta comes to an end. And really that makes sense. In the days of the always connected smartphone, it kind of blows my mind that Encarta, something from the earliest days of CD-ROM, was still being made when the iPhone was on sale. And those initial releases that we looked at, they still do fill me with wonder. I remember, this amazing new medium, and really it was one of the first products that really took advantage of CD-ROM. But obviously now, when we've got stuff like Wikipedia and that kind of thing, and we're always connected to the web in our, devices in our pockets, there isn't much of a need for something like Microsoft Encarta. But definitely an interesting product to look back on its development and how it changed over the 15 or so years that it was on sale. And does anybody else think that Wikipedia should do their own version of Mind Maze? Make that happen. So there you go. That's been a look back at Microsoft Encarta. If you've got any memories you'd like to share, please do leave a comment in this video. And just a quick heads up, if you weren't aware, I do a weekly retro gaming and technology podcast with special guests on the show each week. So if you want to check that out, ask your smart speaker to play the Retro Hour podcast, open your favorite podcast app on your phone, or head to our website at theretrohour.com. And while you're here on YouTube, here are another couple of my videos I think you might enjoy. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.